a memory. She is smiling alone. In the lamplight, the withered leaves collect at my feet, and the wind begins to mourn. Memory, all alone in the moonlight, I can dream of the old days. Life was beautiful then. I remember the time I knew what happiness was. Let the memory live again. Every street lamp seems to beat a fatalistic warning. Someone mutters and the street lamp sputters, and soon it will be morning. Daylight, I must wait for the sunrise. I must think of a new life, and I mustn't give in. When the dawn comes, tonight will be a memory too, and a new day will begin. Burnt out ends of smoky days, the stale cold smell of morning. A street lamp dies, another night is over, another day is dawning. Touch me, it's so easy to leave me all alone with the memory of my days in the sun. If you touch me, you'll understand what happiness is. Look, a new day has begun. It must have been cold there in my shadow to never have sunlight on your face. You were content to let me shine, that's your way. You always walked a step behind. So I was the one with all the glory, while you were the one with all the strain. A beautiful face without a name for so long. A beautiful smile to hide the pain. Did you ever know that you're my hero? want you to know I know the truth. Of course I know I would be nothing without you. Did you ever know that you're my hero? You're everything I wish I could be. I could fly higher than an eagle, for you are the wind beneath my wings. Did I ever tell you you're my hero? You're everything, everything I wish I could be. Oh, night, I can fly higher than an eagle. For you are the wind beneath my wings. 'Cause you are the wind beneath my wings.
And now the end is near, and so I face the final curtain. My friend, I'll say it clear, I'll state my case, of which I'm certain. I've lived a life that's full. I traveled each and every highway and more, much more than this. I did it my way. Regrets, I've had a few, but then again, too few to mention. I did what I had to do, and saw it through without exemption. I planned each charted course, each careful step along the byway, and more, much more than this, I did it my way. Yes, there were times, I'm sure you knew, when I bit off more than I could chew. But through it all, when there was doubt, I ate it up and spit it out. I faced it all, and I stood tall and did it my way. I've loved, I've laughed and cried, I've had my fill, my share of losing, and now as tears subside, I find it all so amusing to think I did all that, and may I say, not in a shy way, oh no, not me. I did it my way. For what is a man? What has he got? If not himself, then he has not to say the things he truly feels. was my way.
We've only just begun to live. White lace and promises, a kiss for luck and we're on our way.
We've only begun.
Before the rising sun we fly. So many roads to choose. We start out walking and learn to run.
And yet we've just begun.
Sharing horizons that are new to us, watching the signs along the way, talking it over, just the two of us, working together day to day, together. And when the evening comes, we smile. So much of life ahead. We'll find a place where there's room to grow.
And yes, we've just begun.
Sharing horizons that are new to us, watching the signs along the way, talking it over, just the two of us, working together day to day, together, together. And when the evening comes, we smile. So much of life ahead. We'll find a place where there's room to grow. And yes, we've just begun. Each day I live, I want to be a day to give the best of me. I'm only one, but not alone. My finest day is yet unknown. I broke my heart for every gain. To taste the sweet, I face the pain. I rise and fall, yet through it all, this much remains. I want one moment in time when I'm more than I thought I could be. When all of my dreams are a heartbeat away, and the answers are all up to me. Give me one moment in
Beyond the palace, semi-powered drones scream down the board.
We wanted you to know, those of you who have not come here before, what this is all about. Why do we have this night? Why do we honor former athletes in Winchester High School? Why do we bring seniors at the same time? Why do we show films of the old and the new? Why do we do all of that? We do it because we want to honor a very rich tradition in this town that I don't need to talk about, because each of you felt it tonight, downstairs and in this room tonight. This experience you had a meaning that lasts a lifetime, and you each know that sitting here tonight. In some way or another, you know it. The seniors here have done their job in carrying on the legacy of this wonderful sports tradition. They've done it not only on the playing fields, but in the academic halls as well, which is part and parcel of what we're talking about tonight. Not just sports, but sports as a basis of something even bigger than sports. But we wanted you to know that, because if we're celebrating the past and we're celebrating the present, we're doing it because we want to ensure the future. And that future, whether anyone here wants to believe it or not, is in jeopardy. And it has been in jeopardy for the past 15 years in this town. Literally, without this sports foundation. And keep in mind, the Hall of Fame committee is only a part of a larger sports foundation that does so much. Without it, we wouldn't be where we are today. Over 400, bring it on. How about a figure of over $450,000 in the last 15 years going directly to sports programs in this town? I mean, come on. We have to afford the people who come next the same opportunities we all had. I ask each of you to think about that, to be generous to the extent you can be, and to help us ensure the future of this program. I want to say to you that the founders of the Sports Foundation go back a long way. Lucille Bork always rings a bell with me, one who fought so hard early on. But our past president, Bob Montgomery, are you in the hall tonight, Bob? Please stand up. Where are you? Stand up. Come on. 10 years of service on a foundation, 2 years as president. This guy didn't want to leave. They had to move him over because his passion's still there. He's going to be involved no matter what happens. But I just appreciate, Bob, your dedication to us so much. You know, Patrick Hall, our new president. Patrick, are you in the hall tonight? I'm pretty sure you are. Please stand. Patrick Hall, are you here? Yeah. He takes over the reins, and I'll tell you that we will work with Patrick in the next couple of years to help him from our side. Without any further ado,
I learned that Tom Morse was nominated for induction into Winchester High School Hall of Fame, and my reaction was, wow, what a great choice, followed by one big smile as my mind filled with such happy images. I had known Tom first as a student and then as a faculty member at Winchester High School, but for so many years I really hadn't thought much about him. When I read the letters of nomination sent by John Becker, class of '54, Robert Becker, class of '56, Chuck Clinton, class of '58, and Donald Brown, class of '60, their words brought back more vivid memories of a truly remarkable man. So tonight I have the special privilege to present for posthumous induction into the Hall of Fame, Tom Morse. Beyond his teaching and coaching skills and successes, Tom had one skill that few have. He could generate a sense of confidence. He could make you see the bright side, the good side, and the right side of whatever the situation. And with his steady, predictable manner, he led by example. And in so doing these things, his students and his teams reached heights of achievement beyond their expectation. Tom came to Winchester High School in 1948. He was a teacher of English. Don Brown mentioned in his letter how valuable the speech course that Tom taught was to Donald in his career, and I'd attest to the same thing. That class, incidentally, was held in the cellar of the Wadley Building, an adventure in and of itself. Tom became involved with the high school student radio station, WHSR. Possibly he could have started it, but certainly he continued it, and it continued through the 1980s. Tom directed some of the school plays, and if anyone here is as old as I am, you may recall the Life magazine special on Winchester High School's junior-senior play, directed by Tom Morse. I think that was published in either 1949 or 50. Then after years of teaching, Tom was tapped to take on the responsibilities of assistant principal. And in this position, his versatility and ability to understand what makes kids tick made him a success. But tonight, we're here to recognize Tom Morse, cross-country coach. In the 1950s and 60s, road running was rare compared to today's frenzy. There was interest in track and field, but as Chuck Clifton said, when Tom Morse asked him if he'd like to try out for cross-country, Chuck thought it was some kind of a travel club. I wish I knew about Tom's background, what prepared him to be such a superb coach. He graduated from Boston University, but I don't know if he was a runner. For those who don't know, cross-country is a fall sport. So at the end of the school year, Tom would be sure that each potential team member had a detailed workout schedule for the summer. Now, perhaps in today's interscholastic world, that's a given. But in those days, that was really unusual. As Robert Becker said in his letter, each team member knew that the first practice would be a run up Mount Vernon Street, cross Highland Avenue, and into the Fells, a vertical climb of between 300 and 400 feet. So runners were prepared. Tom designed a course for Winchester's home meets that was a dandy. It was a grueling course, particularly for the visiting team. Now, Tom was a really good guy, but he also wanted to win. So the intention in this course was to demoralize the opponents before the race was half over on these mini heartbreak hills. And it worked. This course is no longer used by Winchester High School runners for their home meets, and I'd like to romanticize and say that the other coaches found it too tough for their teams, but probably there were other reasons. Tom coached cross-country for 13 years, and during that time, some of our other Hall of Fame inductees were also coaching: Henry Knowlton, Frank Provenzano, Frank Finnegan. Tom's teams won Middlesex League championships, divisional championships, 7 Massachusetts championships, and 2 New England championships. But in Tom's eyes, each member of each team was a champion. I'm confident that as this event is happening here this evening, there is one man with a big smile looking down on us. Thanks, Tom, for all you gave to Winchester High School, its students, its faculty, and its staff.
And at this time, I would like to call up Tom's son, Tom Morse II. Thanks.
I was told I'd have all the time I need, so 25, 30 minutes should be plenty. No, seriously, I have a very short speech, but and I had notes, and then I lost them, and then I threw them away anyway. But I will say, when I got the call from Robin Carlson, I didn't even know there was a Winchester Hall of Fame, and I was pretty thrilled about it. And I called my sister, and she was pretty excited, and she called my other sister and talked to my mother, and who I'm sorry can't be here today. She's in a nursing home, but the whole family was really quite pleased with it. My father loved to coach. He loved to teach. He, growing up, he really didn't have any hobbies. And I think it's because his hobby was coaching, his hobby was teaching, his hobby was, working with the theater, working with the radio station. He loved what he did. There's no question about it, And I've heard a lot of stories tonight. I was younger, so when the cross-country team was going on, I was around some, but I don't remember all the details. But I heard some great stories tonight, and I'd like to I appreciate this for myself, my father, and a family, and thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am flattered to have this opportunity this evening to present an inductee to the Hall of Fame, Mr. Whip Saltmarsh. I have shared many political platforms with Whip over the years, and he has constantly picked on me, and occasionally I've returned the favor. But tonight, I promise not to make any comments about his clothes, his personality, or his wealth. I really believe that Whip deserves this honor. In fact, I've always wondered why he hadn't been selected in prior years. And it appears to me that one of the reasons is that his high school sports career was greatly overshadowed by his performance in college and in his career. Specifically in college, as most of you know, Whip went to a Division I hockey school where he played for 4 years. And several years ago, he was elected to the Boston College Hall of Fame. And during that period, he played with several greats, one from Winchester and a former inductee, Wimpy Burtnett, and the other, a former manager of the Boston Red Sox, Joe Morgan. In fact, Joe sent me a note telling me that to wish Whip well this evening and his family, and that he was unable to come. Whip, I don't know if it means anything, but he also noted that instead of coming, he was going to the Kentucky Derby. There was a famous coach at Boston College by the name of Snooks Kelly. And Snooks Kelly once said of Whip that he was the most aggressive forward of any player that he ever coached in his complete career. After college, he was selected to play for the United States Olympic team, and he practiced with them for 3 years before he injured his knee, an injury which I may note continues to bother him today. And if that high school career was overshadowed by BC, his BC athletic career has certainly been overshadowed by his political career. As many of us here tonight know, Whip has served the town of Winchester for many years as a town meeting member, a selectman, and for 16 years as a state legislator in the Great and General Court. During that time, he was known as one of the most effective legislators of either party, and some of the legislation that he initiated and some of the projects that he caused to be funded are credits to his record and have certainly benefited the town of Winchester. After he retired as a legislator, he gained a reputation as the new director of the Massachusetts Aeronautic Commission. And if Snooks Kelly thought he was aggressive as a forward, I can tell you that many governors think that he was very aggressive as he collected funds and improved the airports throughout the Commonwealth of Massachusetts far greater than anybody in recent history. Tonight, however, we're here to celebrate and to recognize Whip's high school accomplishments, which have been overshadowed maybe by the accomplishments in later life. Whip grew up in Winchester playing hockey, and he played up at Long Pond. Many wonder how he got the name Whip, and it actually started in Long Pond as opposed to politics. At that time, for those who have skated on the lakes before, it's not uncommon for people to form a human chain and skate very fast with the person on the end of the chain as we turn left or right being whipped around in a great arc. Very few good skaters can hold on to that position for any length of time, and Whip was the record holder up at Long Pond. Now at that time, there was no minor league hockey or bantam hockey. There was hockey between the various areas of town. Long Pond came down and played at Big Winter or Little Winter, and both of them might go down to Wedge Pond or the Mystic Lakes to play against the other neighborhoods. So when they got to high school, there were some very, very good hockey players, and two of them, Wimpy Burnett and Whip Saltmarsh, were known as the hero or the star from Long Pond and the star from Winter Pond, and they formed the base for the Winchester High School hockey team. And at that time, there were only 11 members on the hockey team, and they played throughout the winter, traveling from town to town and playing mostly on outside lakes. To show you the quality of those teams, of which Whip was the high scorer, of the 11 players, 8 of those players went on to play in Division I hockey. That team and their efforts in the 3 years that Whip played for Winchester High School formed the basis of today's Winchester hockey program. And if one looks at one of the finest hockey programs in the state, we can see that the foundation may have started back in the late 1940s under the leadership of players like Whip Saltmarsh. Not only did he play hockey, but many are surprised that know him now that he also was a track star. His father, Sherm Saltmarsh, also was a very distinguished man who was an attorney and was a graduate of Dartmouth University, and he had run the mile up there. And in Whip's junior year, he encouraged Whip to run the mile. And run the mile he did. He ended up as the top miler in the state. He had 15 races, of which he won 13. And of those 2 races that he lost, one of them was lost to Gil Dodds. Now, if you look in the record, you may have seen his picture today, a famous, in the introductory photographs, he showed him beating or leading Gil Dodds, I think in the 3rd lap of a race. Gil Dodds was a famous miler and holds many, many records throughout the country. Whip eventually lost that race, but that was only one of the 2 races that he lost in high school. And to this day, Whip holds 2 records in track. Number 1, he still holds the fastest time on the old track that was located down on Mystic Valley Parkway. No one ever exceeded that record. And second, he led the Winchester track team in 1948 to the only state championship that has ever been won by a Winchester track team. We should all be very proud of that. His performance as an athlete in Winchester High School was unique, and he deserves that recognition. And ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce the person who I think has done more for Winchester than any other living person, Whip Saltmarsh. Thank you very much.
Gentlemen, Sherman Whip Saltmarsh.
You know, I was in the legislature for a long time, 14 years, and they tell us to make it short in a few minutes, but, you know, in the State House, there's no limit, so sit back and relax. You're going to be here a long time. Sam said 7 minutes. It'll be the longest 7 minutes you've ever seen. You know, I've got a broken ankle. I broke it in 2 places. And everybody said tonight, how did you break it? How did you break it? Some of you didn't ask me that question. But I think I want to clear the air here and tell you how this happened. Frank Finnegan, renowned hockey coach and head of the physics department, science department, Winchester High School, called me up and he said, Whip, I'm going to nominate you to the Hall of Fame. I said, geez, he said, you know, you and Wimpy Brett and others really were the pioneers of Winchester High School hockey. I said, yeah, we certainly had some input in it, Coach, but you know, we didn't win these state championships. We didn't win these scoring titles. I said, really, I want to think about this a couple of days. This is not, you know, you're talking about the likes of Joe Bellino and Barry Johnson tonight and the other people who have been inducted in the past, my good pal, Wimpy Britnett. I said, gee, I want to think about it. So he called me back in a couple of days. And I said, well, I'll tell you. I said, you know, maybe you're right. We had some good guys go on to college and so forth, but I'm going to give you one thing that you can hang your hat on. I said, I ran track. Well, there was silence on the phone. I said, what's the matter? You don't feel well or what? He said, no. You said, you ran track? Well, of course, everybody else probably thinks the same thing. This rotund guy here running the mile. But I told him about it and everything, so we went on, and that was it. Now, I just want to take a few minutes to explain to you the difference of how we started out and how it is today. I've got my grandson here, Mark Vaughn, tonight, who's 6 years old. And we never had any pee-wee hockey, no youth hockey, nothing. As John Sullivan mentioned in nominating me, we played on the ponds. There were only 3 artificial ice surfaces in Massachusetts, the Boston Garden, the Boston Arena, which is now the Matthews Arena owned by Northeastern, and the Boston Skating Club. That was it. And occasionally we'd go over to the skating club, and it was a big deal to go at 4 o'clock in the morning and have an hour of practice to come to school. We played outside. We played many of the prep schools, Belmont Hill, Governor Dummer, and so forth. And we played on just ice surfaces that were flooded on a field or whatever. The town built us a rink down at the tennis courts on Palmer Street. We had a rink there. Then our senior year, which Wimpy can remember this, the town built us an ice rink, put the boards up on Wedge Pond. And if you remember that, that was the fall of 1947. Some of you may not be that old, but I think if you read the recent history of our snow in Massachusetts, that was the 3rd snowiest winter we ever had. Well, we went down and we used to shovel the snow off by hand. There were no snow blowers, nothing. Day after day, we played one game there. We get down this one day, no rink. The whole thing sunk through the ice of Wedge Pond down the bottom. It's probably still there. But you know, this is what we went through at that time. And I think that, as John said, we was really sort of the pioneers. We got this thing going. He mentioned we had the vast majority of our team went on to Division I. Wimpy and I had the good fortune to go to BC. We played in the first bean pot. We both had a crack at the Olympics, and Wimpy went on to play overseas. And it all came back to Winchester High School. They gave us a start. We had the opportunity. And I want to thank the town of Winchester for that. I was fortunate. I lived in this town my entire life. Went through from K to 12 in school. Then I went on to BC. As John mentioned, I had a good career at the town and the legislature. And I have my business here. And I owe it all to Winchester, and particularly the education I got at Winchester High School. You have to start somewhere. And they were kind enough to give us a few bucks to get some uniforms. We were sort of a ragtag outfit, but we got, you know, at least get started and you can see the results. I mentioned about no pee-wee hockey. Now, we didn't, I'm not going to tell you what this is yet. We played up a long pond and whatnot. I think I was 6 or 7 years old. My dad took me up. These are the kind of skates, double runners that we started out with. In fact, this says John Sullivan, class of 1957, Winchester. That's what he used when he scored that winning goal. Now my grandson is 6 years old. Look at his skate, Bowers. We were still on these things. My father was saying I was probably crying and complaining about being in the cold weather and whatever. My grandson now is in Pee Wee hockey. Oh, 6 years old. 23 regular scheduled games starting in October. Had a tournament in the February vacation of 4 games. Another tournament in April, 4 more games. 31 games at 6 years old. 40 practices. That's how it is today compared to when we started out. I was talking to Joe Morgan one time, and we were talking about the quality of hockey and all that. He said, you know, Salty, these guys think they're pretty good today. You know, I think we were as good a hockey players and athletes as they are today. But one thing is, like Mark, you know, you start out at 6 years old, have 30 games, 40 games a year, all kinds of tournaments, all kinds of equipment. I can remember guys playing up a long pond with magazines for their shin pads. Mark has got shin pads, pants, shirt, helmet with a cage on it, elbow pads, the whole works. That's why they have the opportunity to be, they're so darn good. I don't think they're any better as athletes, but they're better hockey players. I think at BC we had just our one coach. Now today at BC they have 4 coaches, head coach, 3 assistant coaches, a doctor, a psychiatrist, a nutritionist, the whole thing. Good thing to have a psychiatrist, and we were there, boy, I'll tell you. But that's the difference today. And I'll just tell you one thing. When Frank called me up, he said, you're going in the Hall of Fame. I said, gee, that's great. So I called up Jerry York, who's a good friend of mine. He's the coach at BC. I said, Jerry, you know, I'm going to be inducted to the Winchester High School Hall of Fame. I said, I'd like to come over to practice someday. You know, I feel pretty good. And I said, you know, I'd go over and maybe show the guy a few things. So anyway, I went over there. They gave me a uniform. They gave me my number 8. This was not too long ago. He said, well, I want you to go to practice. We skated around. He said, I want you to play in the first line. I want you to play with our captain, Ryan Shannon, and Dave Spina. So I was on my old slot right wing. So we're playing, going around great, and doing pretty well, and the puck goes in the corner. Well, I started to win for it. Well, this guy named Andrew Alberts, anybody has seen BC play, he's 230 pounds, 6'4". He was All-American this year. So he's going in the corner. I'm going in the corner. I said to myself, I'm going to put this guy right up on the first row. I'll teach him something. Oh, away we went in. Well, there's the result there, guys. The moral of the story is, don't try for a comeback when you're 76 years old. So in closing, I just want to say again that I really want to thank the Hall of Fame committee and, again, the town of Winchester. They gave me a good, solid education. I wouldn't have had the good fortune to go to BC, play hockey, play in the first bean pot, a lot of great times. And I really attribute where you start, the foundation you get. And the last thing I want to say here that I think that Sam Rotundi, Maria Montori, and Joan Bird deserve a great deal of credit for what they have done here tonight. Without their efforts, you have no idea what goes into planning something like this. And I want to thank them. It's tireless, it's thankless. And also the Sports Foundation of what they have given to Winchester. Sam mentioned it's almost $500,000. And if some of you may not live in Winchester anymore, but you know, we were in tough financial times in the state and in the town. And it's through the efforts of people like Maria and Sam and Joan that they're able to raise the funds and support some of the athletic programs, which would have gone by the board otherwise. So again, thank you very much.
My name is Steve Powers. I'm a graduate of Winchester High, class of '59, and a member of the Hall of Fame committee. It's going to be my pleasure this evening to introduce for induction Roderick Stewart Thompson, class of 1953. Stu is a friend of mine, an outstanding student athlete from that class of 53. He will be joining his deceased brother, Doug Thompson, of the class of 59 as a member of the Sports Foundation Hall of Fame. Further, by being inducted this evening, Stu and Doug Thompson join other family groups in the Hall of Fame, namely the Bolinos, Joe, Sam, and Mike, the Saricas, Jocko, and Dan, and the Perrells, Tom and Ann. And this evening, the Wolfs will come in at the same time because Robert Wolf is getting inducted, and Bill Wolf was previously inducted into the Hall of Fame. I think I'd like to say a moment about Roderick Thompson, the father. I know that he was very involved with Doug, Stu, and Linda. He demanded the best from his children and supported them in every endeavor. He'd be very proud this evening of Stu's induction as well as Doug's in 1999. In football, Winchester High's three-year record with Stu at quarterback was 27-1-2, and in basketball, the team record was 35-3 during the same 3 years. The basketball team won the Tech Tourney his junior year and lost to Weymouth in the final his senior year at Boston Garden. Stu was an outstanding leader as well as a gifted athlete and was very responsible for those teams' winning ways. A few football players that played with Stu were Joe Bellino, Jocko Sarica, Joe Donlin, Jimmy Griffin, John Atkinson, Paul Mahoney, Jimmy Carroll, to name only a few. Stu won many awards in both basketball and football. He was a two-time Middlesex League All-Star in both football and basketball, and a Boston Globe All-Scholastic in basketball. Coach Ted Bartlett said that Stu was the best basketball player he coached, and anyone that knows in that era, Ted, who was also a member of the Hall of Fame, that his teams were tremendous. So if this was the best basketball player he coached, he had to be real good. His senior class voted him Athlete of the Year in '53. Stu earned a scholarship to Williston Academy after graduation, but unfortunately severely injured his knee playing at Williston and had it operated on, and that ultimately ended his athletic career. He earned a full scholarship to Yale University. After graduation, he served in the Army and then went to work for IBM in a number of marketing and management positions, compiling one of the greatest sales records in the company's history. He is now retired and living in Sarasota, Florida. There were a few people that we talked to along the way. Everyone was very high on this induction. Stu at that time was 6'2", 190 pounds, very big presence on the field, and certainly a very deserving inductee into the Hall of Fame. At this time, I'd like to introduce Roderick Stewart Thompson, class of 1953.
As I think was mentioned, I live down in Florida, in Sarasota, and I've lived down there since 1992. And every time I come back to Winchester, and I probably come back every year and a half or so, every 2 years, I grab a cab and come out 93. And of course, when I grew up here, 93 was not in existence. And driving along, I forget the name of the street, there used to be a Ballaroo skating rink on the right. And on the left, there was that big dump. And I look up towards, it's right at the Somerville-Medford line. And our dad grew up there in a three-family house right at the top of, right adjacent to Winter Hill. And half the house was in Somerville and half was in Medford. And Dad had a brother and two sisters. And I think the sisters' bedrooms were in Somerville, and they both went to Somerville High School. And my dad and his brother went to Medford. The reason I bring up that story is all three of us kids were born in Medford, and somehow our father had the foresight and our good fortune to move to Winchester when I think I was about 6 years old. And Winchester in the 50s there was a whip alluded to some of it. He's a little ahead of me, but in the 50s, it was just a wonderful time to live in this town. Not that it isn't today, it probably still is, although it sounds like they're having some financial problems with the athletic programs, which is really criminal because that's what helped a lot of us get to college. Anyways, we were so fortunate when we were young kids there. We all aspired to play on the athletic teams. The athletic teams were so good that we, played on the playgrounds, and nothing was organized, as Whip said. There wasn't any, little league. There wasn't any junior pee-wee football or anything like that. We just used to have neighborhood teams that played against each other. And there's one thing that probably most of you are aware of. It's really a good system that they have here in Massachusetts. It's a town and city form of government. I've lived in Maryland and also in Florida. They have a county form of government, which is entirely different because if Winchester wants to have a good high school, they can have it. You'll tax yourself and give yourself a good high school. That's not true in counties. Counties, it's all spread out, and it just doesn't work as well. Anyways, the main focal point, I think, at that time in the 50s was the high school and the athletic teams, and the whole town would come and support us. It was just fantastic. And in that particular era, when I played, there were so many good football players it was hard to believe. We had a team when we were juniors in football that was undefeated, and to this day, I think some of the guys on the team don't realize this, but there was a manager named Mitzi Maughan, and Mitzi told me that he had seen a letter on Coach Knowlton's desk after Thanksgiving inviting us to play in the Orange Bowl, and for some reason, he turned it down, I guess. And I never mentioned that to anybody until I went to my 45th high school reunion. And Bob Flaherty, who is working tonight or would be here, he said his dad had kept quite a scrapbook on our sports teams. And sure enough, I said, gee, can I borrow it one night and read through it? And I did. And it was in the Boston Globe there saying that Winchester had been invited to play in the Orange Bowl, and they had contacted Coach Knowlton for whatever reason. He said it was too short a time between periods, between seasons, and it was turned down, that would have been such a wonderful experience for all of us. I don't know whether you guys know that we had a hell of a team. Joe Nodland and Dickie Arico were the captains, and I don't think anybody could score on us, really. We scrimmaged Concord. Concord at the time was in the midst of a 56-game winning streak, and it was a Class D school. However, Acton, Boxborough, Lincoln, Carlisle didn't have high schools. They all went to Concord, and we scrimmaged those guys, and they were terrific. We happened to beat them 2 touchdowns to nothing. Joe will remember that. We also played against Winthrop, that was supposed to have the best team in the state at that time, and we beat them 21-0 and held them to minus yardage. Anyways, I felt so fortunate to play with those guys, so many good guys, and also we had very good basketball teams, and a lot of that was due to the coach, Ted Bartlett, who was just a fantastic coach, as all of those who played for him will recall. I was walking off the football field, maybe after the 3rd game of my senior season, and a fellow named Art Johns, who along with Sammy Bellino had coached, they had just started the Little League that year, coached the Dodgers. And Art said, Stu, what are you going to do next year? And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, you're going to go to college. And I said, well, I don't know. I said, I didn't take all the right courses in high school. So the only thing I can do is go down south and play football. And some of the guys from the area did go down and play. And Frank Provenzano at the time was our backfield coach. And Frank said, Stu, don't go. And I didn't. And Art, as I walked off the field, after he said, well, my brother-in-law is on the board of directors at Williston Academy, which I had never heard of. And he said, you'll have to pass a test, and if you can pass the test, we can get you a full scholarship. And I said, well, okay. So I took a bus up there. It's just north of it's called Williston Northampton today. It's just north of Springfield. So I took a bus. I think it was about a 110-mile bus ride up there. And apparently I did pretty well on the test, got the scholarship, and but I had to go to summer school to redo my junior year. And Williston was not a ringer school at all in football. It was in hockey at that time. Yale had outstanding swimming teams, but never won the NCAA title because they didn't have good divers. Anyways, in that summer school, there were 2 or 3 guys that Yale had sent to to Williston. One of whom was a fellow named Rex Aubrey from Australia, and he went on to win the Olympic gold medal in the 100-meter freestyle. He also set a world record. But anyways, the year I did go to Williston, there were 3 or 4 other PGs like myself, and we had a terrific team up there. And then, unfortunately, I was running back a kick, and I get back to about the line of scrimmage, about 3 guys hit me, and there was somebody down behind me, and I got bent over this way, and my knee went. And that was just late in the season. And I can recall my dad took me into Harvard, Peter Provenzano, and I believe both Frank and Pete are in the Hall of Fame, are they not? And Pete was the trainer at Harvard at the time, and he took a look at my knee and said, "Stu, I hate to tell you this, but I'm not sure you'll ever be able to play again." Anyways, I did well academically there and was fortunate enough to get a scholarship offers to just about any school I wanted to go to. And I don't mean to sound bragging about that, but anyways, I chose to go to Yale. And they were terrific to me down there. The varsity trainer worked on my knee for the whole first year. The freshmen could not play in those days. And it seemed to be coming along, but the following August, I had a big argument with my dad in our backyard, and I said, "I'm not going back to college this year, my sophomore first semester." And he said, "Why not?" And I said, "Well," I said, "my knee won't hold up. I just feel it won't." And then we argued, and I kind of slept on it. And I think the next day or 2 days later, I got a telegram from Jordan Oliver, who was the coach at Yale. And in those days, Joe Bellino will attest, the Ivy League schools, a few of them were really good. They could play anybody. One year I was there at Yale, there were 5 guys drafted by the NFL. Another year, we played Army, was ranked number 2 at the time, and beat them. So there were a lot of good players. Anyway, so I go back, and they had a pretty good quarterback, and they had a good freshman quarterback from the year before. And I didn't know what kind of shot I'd get. And about, I would say it would probably be about the 5th or 6th of August when we started to practice, and about the 4th or 5th day, we had our first scrimmage. And the coach said, "Thompson, you're our quarterback, get in." So I get in, and about the 4th or 5th play, I went back and threw a pass. Nobody even touched me, and I went down, ended up in the hospital, and that was the end of my football career, unfortunately. I'm going to say a few words, if I may, about my brother, because when he was inducted, his kids got up and talked. His wife was very insistent that the kids talked. They were 9/11 when my brother passed away from cancer, and he was only 43 years old. Doug, like myself, went to Williston, then he went on to Virginia. And again, freshmen could not play in those days. And he had some sort of a thigh injury, I think, and missed the first 2 or 3 games of the season. I happened to go down and see the first game he played, which was against South Carolina. And took a girlfriend, we had a flat tire on the way, and we thought the game started like at 1 o'clock, and it really started at 12:30. And we got to his room, got the tickets, went to the stadium, and I saw all these people walking around. I said, "Well, we're okay, we made it." We didn't make it. We walked in there, and about 10 minutes of the first quarter, it had expired. And I'll be darned, the first play, we walked in, Doug ran about 20 yards for a touchdown. Which was very exciting, really. I didn't get the opportunity to see Doug play too many times, but I want to mention a couple other runs. And it had to do with the Bellino fan. My dad always said that the greatest run he ever saw was Sammy's run when he stole the ball from that guy. I think it was against Winthrop that they showed on the screen here when Sam was inducted, and went the other way and ran for a touchdown. But I think the greatest run I ever saw was you, Joe, against Wakefield. And I don't remember how many yards you ran. It was probably 50 or 60. It was the last play of the game, I think, or damn near it. And you scored a touchdown. They had a good team, and I think you won like 32-28 or something. Is that about right? Yeah, it was a hell of a run. I mean, he must have run through half a dozen guys. Let me just sum up by saying that the greatest lessons I learned here and in sports were that the team is so important. We didn't really care who scored the touchdowns. Jocko scored an awful lot of them, but we didn't really care. We didn't care who scored the points. The whole theme was it's the team that matters. And I used to be real interested in professional sports and so forth, but no more. I mean, the only team that I can watch now is the Patriots, because I don't give a damn who gets the credit, but they play as a team. which is what it's all about. And it's not just in sports, it's in life, and it's in business. It's really important in business. It's important in families. So teamwork is absolutely critical. And the last thing I'd like to say, I'd like to thank the people that are responsible for me being up here. I think Joe Donald was a driving force on this. Steve Powers and Bruce Barnell, I know, were behind my brother's nomination and certainly supported me. Maria supported me, and a lot of the players that were mentioned by Steve, you know, Aki and Skitchy and John and Paul Mahoney. Again, I think Joe Donald was the lead on that. They're all being mysterious with me about it, but I feel very honored to be here, and thank you very much. And best of luck.
Henry Wadsworth Longfellow wrote, quote, "The thoughts of youth are long, long thoughts." It is my firm conviction that the success of the Winchester Sports Foundation speaks to the truth of Longfellow's poem. Every year, I am sure that each of you can see the joy and happiness in the eyes and on the faces of both the past inductees into the Hall of Fame and those who are to be inducted tonight. It is the Sports Foundation that allows us to recall those great memories of our youth, no matter what further honors may come one's way. That is why it is such an honor for me to introduce Barry Johnson of the class of 1964 for induction into the Hall of Fame tonight. I could see that joy in his eyes. As I have said in the past, I pride myself on remembering something about each individual student or player I had in Winchester. Well, with Barry, there were three things. One, he could really headman the puck, which means he could get the puck to a teammate farther up the ice. Second, Barry could shoot, shoot, and shoot again, and that puck would go in the net. And third, and so much of our offense depended on it, Barry had a great set of elbows in the corners, which many times would give us control of the puck and the ability to set up our triangle for a score. Barry won varsity letters in football, hockey, and tennis. In football, he was that now rare two-way player, an end on offense and a linebacker on defense. For his outstanding play on Thanksgiving Day in 1963 against arch rival Woburn, he was awarded the annual trophy as the outstanding defensive player of the game. He also excelled in tennis, where his team won the Middlesex League title in his senior year. As for hockey, Barry was an instant starter as a sophomore, embarking on the road which would lead to his being one of the outstanding high school hockey players, not only in the state, but in the country. The nationally syndicated hockey magazine, Coast to Coast USA, featured Barry, Ed Cutting, and Captain Vic Lawson in their cover story entitled, quote, "Are these America's best high school hockey players?" unquote. And I believe that they were. Parenthetically, it was pointed out that no other high school team had three players named on the national team. But Barry lived up to those accolades when, as a junior, he was the team's leading scorer, and in his career at Winchester, he scored 70 goals, along with 93 assists, for a total of 163 points. Do you remember those attributes I mentioned earlier? Head manning and those big elbows in the corners. Maybe those had something to do with that scoring. As a senior, Barry was an integral part of what would become, under various titles, depending upon the sports writers whom you read, the legendary Dynamite line, the High Voltage line, the Tommy Gun Trio, Finnegan's Firing Line, as well as Athos, Porthos, and Aramis, the highest scoring line in Massachusetts schoolboy hockey. Their positional play, resourcefulness, and flamboyance brought from Ed Burns, the revered Arlington High School coach, the comment, quote, "That line is the best I have ever seen in high school hockey," unquote. Barry's most important goal might have been scored when the Sachems toppled Wakefield to take the Middlesex League lead in a game described by Frank Procopio in an article in the Woburn Times, quote, "You can tell a champion, as the oldest adage in sports asserts, by the team that goes out and wins the game they have to win." Last night, at the North Shore Sports Center in Lynn, before a capacity crowd of some 3,000 people and one of the noisiest, excitement-packed crowds on record, Barry Johnson's lamplighter came before some fans had even settled in their seats when at 1:12 of the first period, Barry scored with a backhand shot from 10 feet in front of the net, unquote. That goal established the tempo of the game, which we went on to win 4-2 to give us the victory we needed to win the Middlesex League title. Barry finished his high school career not only as a member of the All-American hockey team, but was also named to the All-Middlesex League team, as well as the state All-Scholastic team. After high school, Barry attended Deerfield Academy, where he led all scorers and was awarded the Deerfield Cup as the Hockey Player of the Year. He then attended Harvard University, where he was the leading scorer his freshman year and received the Silver Puck for the team's undefeated play in Ivy League competition that year. He then excelled at the varsity level. Barry then served with distinction in Vietnam before entering international banking. Barry, you were a great player, and obviously the statistics prove it. And I do congratulate you on your outstanding accomplishments as a player. But there was more to you than numbers. And I would finish by saying, you're also what I was always looking for in my players. The dedicated person who was always striving to improve, and the optimist who never accepted defeat. I am extremely honored to present for induction into the Winchester Sports Hall of Fame, Barry Johnson. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Coach Finnegan, for that great introduction. I think I did a lot better on the ice than I did in your classroom, though, as I recall. This has been a great evening for me. I want to thank the Sports Foundation and all those involved for this great honor. I'm truly humbled by this honor and very proud to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. It's a great privilege to join the other great athletes that have preceded me into the Hall. I also want to congratulate tonight the Sports Foundation on the great work it performs. I really didn't know much about it until the last few years when I've had a chance to learn about it from my good friend Sam Rotundi, and I understand that without the Sports Foundation and the supplemental funding that it provides to the high school, various sports programs wouldn't be provided. This would be a great shame, I think. I think it's tremendous that the school can continue to offer opportunity to young people to participate in a wide variety of sports, as I think sports is a great vehicle to teach people the important values that they can use throughout their lives. I was certainly very grateful for the opportunity afforded to me to play various sports from the Pee Wee level through university. I know Whip mentioned before that didn't have that in those days, but we were very fortunate when I came along that we had Pee Wee programs in most of the sports, which led right into the junior high programs and then high school and on. I think a lot of the values that I've used in my life of teamwork and sportsmanship and how to compete and obviously hard work and dedication have served me well, not only in my own personal life, but in my business career. I want to thank all the coaches I've had throughout my life, too, and in helping to instill the values that I've previously mentioned. Especially like to thank Coach Finnegan. I think one of the proudest moments I've had in sports was being part of the great team that brought home a league championship to Winchester in ice hockey back in '63. It's too bad we had to run into a hot goaltender in the state tournament, or maybe we could have brought home a state title also that year. It wasn't to be, though. But most importantly, I'd like to thank my dad. He's always been my biggest supporter. He's always been there for me in the good and the bad times. He's also been the greatest coach I ever had. Being a father myself, I can truly appreciate all the sacrifices he had to make back in those days. Especially can remember him taking me to Belmont Hill School at 5 or 6 in the morning on Saturdays to play ice hockey, Pee Wee hockey, outdoors, and to stand around those ice cold days around the rink and watch us play. I'm just so happy that he and the rest of my family can be here tonight to share this evening with me. It's also been so great to see some of my old classmates and teammates, many of whom I've not seen in the last 30, 35 years. I want to thank everyone again for this great honor. It's been a great pleasure for me to be here tonight. Thank you very much.
Good evening. Tonight I have the honor and pleasure to introduce, on behalf of our teammates and coaches, Peter Knight for induction into the Winchester High School Hall of Fame. First, I would like to extend congratulations to each member of this year's Hall of Fame class. I'm sure it will be remembered as one of the Hall's most distinguished. Second, I would like to thank everyone, especially Pete's teammates, family, and friends, for making the effort to attend this momentous event. Peter's high school sports career began as a 3-sport athlete, lettering in baseball, basketball, and football in each of his sophomore, junior, and senior years. During his senior year, he was elected co-captain of the baseball team, the highest honor that can be bestowed upon a player by his teammates. He was also an accomplished basketball player, but his real sport was football, and there he did it all. On the offensive side of the ball, he was a hard-running fullback and a punishing blocker. Against Stoneham in his senior year, he gained over 200 yards on 15 carries. And in my opinion, he was the most dangerous punt returner in the Middlesex League. A teammate recently remarked how effectively the punt return wall would be established. Pete would get the ball and be off to the races for 30, 40, 50 yards, and oftentimes a touchdown. On the defensive side of the ball, he was a hard-hitting safety, and I don't recall any opponent ever getting behind our secondary. Pete was always there. In a battle of 2 undefeated teams before 10,000 fans at Manchester Field, Pete led the defense against the most explosive offense in the league. Pete and the defense held the Melrose Red Raiders, who were averaging 270 yards per game on the ground, to 47 total yards. Even more remarkable, the famous Pony Express backfield was held to -7 yards rushing in the first half. For his athletic ability and football skills, he was selected to the Boston Globe All-Scholastic Defensive Team. He was also awarded the MVP for the 1968 football team and received the Harry Agganis Scholarship Award. But I think the award that meant the most to Peter was being a part of the 1968 Middlesex Championship team, the first of many to follow under Coach Manny Marshall. Following Winchester, Pete went to Cornell University, where he started at safety in his sophomore, junior, and senior years, achieving individual awards including All-Ivy honorable mention as a defensive back in his junior year and All-Ivy second team defensive back in his senior year. He currently holds 2 records at Cornell, one for the most punt returns in a game at 8 versus Princeton, and he holds the single season interception record with 7. And in that year with 7 interceptions, he ranked 5th in the nation. These are remarkable individual accomplishments, only to be superseded by playing on another championship team. In 1971, Cornell won the Ivy League championship. Championships are very special accomplishments, and unlike individual records, they can never be broken or taken away. And they create lifelong bonds between players and coaches. To be a part of 2 championship teams is very exceptional. The success didn't stop there. It never does when you're driven and have pride and the desire to be the best at what you do. Pete earned a law degree from Georgetown University and began his law career working for the Department of Justice. Later, he became Chief of Staff to the late Congressman Toby McDonald, and then Chief of Staff to Al Gore in both Congress and in the Senate. He held senior positions on 4 presidential campaigns, including serving as campaign manager for the 1996 re-election of President Bill Clinton. Currently, Pete is president of Generation Investment Management, located in Washington, D.C. With Pete tonight is his wife, Gail, also a 1969 classmate from Winchester High School, and his son, Zachary, who is presently a junior at Cornell University. Over the last 2 or 3 weeks, I've spoken with some of Pete's teammates from Cornell and coaches from Cornell, and a common phrase kept reoccurring, and it was, championship teams always reunite. Well, Pete, tonight, this event has given our championship team an opportunity to reunite once again. Congratulations and welcome home.
Well, thank you, Joe. That was really overwhelming. I want to come back to that, but I also want to tell my first story, and it starts with Joe Bellino. It's to be on the same stage and to be in the same organization as Joe Bellino is really quite something, because my story was not playing with him, but playing him. And as a little kid, about 5 or 6 years old, I was Joe, and my buddy was Mike. And we used to just beat the hell out of each other. But sorry, Mike, but I always won sitting as Joe. It's an honor to be here, and I want to thank the Sports Foundation. I have many thank yous, and the first and foremost go to my teammates on the '68 championship team. It is, as Joe said, quite an accomplishment, and it was the first championship team for Manny Marshall, and it was a very special time for all of us. So to my teammates who helped push this all forward, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I can't tell you how much this means to me. I have a lot of people from my class that are here too, and 1969 was a really tumultuous time for us to go to high school and to go to college. And I'm really pleased that all of you were here. I'm here with my wife and my son. My son came in. I didn't even realize he was coming. He came in this afternoon. It was quite exciting because he was supposed to be studying for his exams, and yet he came here. And I want to thank my wife of 25 years, as Joe said, a high school. She was here in Winchester High School. And the one regret that I have in my marriage, and there really is, I think, just one, and that is that she never got to see me play football. She didn't get to see me play at Cornell, and in Winchester, she was partying so hard she didn't get a chance to see any of the games. But I also really want to thank the two finest coaches that I ever had in high school or college, and that were the two coaches I had here, Manny Marshall and the late Earl Johnson. They were both mentors to me. They both taught me a lot about how to bring the best out in yourself. And for Manny and for Earl, who all of us remember extremely fondly, I say thank you. Manny was instrumental in my career at Cornell. He probably forgets this, but you know, when I went to Cornell, I wanted to play defense, and they actually tried to get me to play offense. And they wanted me to play halfback, and they wanted me to play behind this fellow named Ed Marinaro. And many of you may not know, but he was the second in the Heisman Trophy winner, the last Ivy Leaguer to do that. He went on to play with the Jets and Minnesota Vikings. And, you know, I said, geez, I got to play defense. And Manny, you got to help me out here, call my coach. He calls the coach and says, hey, listen, he's a hell of a defensive back. He can run fast and he can hit hard and he's smart and he can return punts. But also as a halfback on offense, the guy had the worst instincts I've ever seen in my life. No, I'm only kidding. He didn't really say that. But football has taught me a great deal about hard work, teamwork, endurance, how to put it all together. It's also it's taught me about championships and what they mean. It also has taught me about defeats and how to accept defeats, which, as a Democrat in Washington, that's a pretty important trait to have these days. But I wanted to just tell you one story. As I was going through the clips, and it was really fun to see the clips, because now I remember getting hit so many times blocking for Joe Bonacera. It was it was a great experience. But as I was going through the clips, I found a clip that my father had written, and I hadn't seen it before. He had written a letter to Sports Illustrated, and it sort of brought out the fact that football is actually a little bit more than just about hard work. It's about family. It's about humility. It's about togetherness and teamwork. And my father, as with many fathers probably out there, was, would embarrass me by saying, oh, Pete's so great. Anybody he'd meet, he'd tell about my career at Cornell or this and that. He would embarrass me. It was just awful, which sort of reminded me of the Mark Twain quote, at least attributed to him, that he said when he was 14, his father was so ignorant, they didn't want to be around him. But by the time he was 21, he was astonished by how much his father had learned. And I sort of felt that way about my father. Well, my father wrote this letter, and in it he talked about game day and what it meant to him to see me play, and how he would get there ahead of and be on the tailgating, and he'd have one drink because he didn't want to dull the resources. He would get into the line to get the tickets, and he knew that I'd always get him good tickets because he was always right there. And he would get a little bit nervous for me when I'd come out, and he was wondering how I was doing. And then he'd see me as the defense started to come out, and he'd really pay attention to that. And he knew I was going to do a good job, but he was just fearful that I might drop a punt or somebody would get by me. And of course, he was very fearful that I was going to get hurt or something like that was to happen. And then after the game, the parents would be there, and I would, come out for 10 minutes, and before I went off to my buddies, and I would talk to him and how meaningful that was to him. And then, of course, being way up in Ithaca, he would then drive back 7 hours, and that's what parents and families put in. And it was overwhelmed at that time, kind of swelling up with guilt that I had been, so embarrassed by him talking about that. But it also brought to me what another part of sports, and that is seeing my own son do sort of the same thing. And while I watched him, trying to will him to be better, to do as well as he could, just hoping that he would get a chance to have a championship team like I had in 1968, and what that felt like. Hoping that he was going to do well, and but fearful that something would happen to him and that he would get hurt. And so the emotions came back in the same way. So football is about endurance, and sports are about endurance. They're about hard work and doing well and excelling, but they're also about humility, teamwork, and about family. And so tonight, I very humbly say thank you so much for letting me be a part of your family.
Robert Wolf, class of 1971. I've always been aware that along with being great athletes, the members of the Winchester High Hall of Fame have had something else in common. They all have great character. And that character carries over long after the cleats have been hung up in the locker for the last time. And my brother's no exception. I'm going to take a member's privilege for a moment and speak directly to Rob. I've watched what you had to endure physically on the football field, and it falls far short of what you've had to endure after. It's because of your character and your inner strength that you were able to carry yourself, your family, through the difficult times. I admire you. I'm proud to call you my brother. Of course, somewhere along the line, I became your brother. Now the easy part. Rob was a three-sport varsity athlete, baseball, basketball, football. Not that he wasn't great in baseball and basketball, but he truly excelled at football. I have a feeling that baseball and basketball just were interim until he got back on the football field. Let's be fair. I played basketball against him 1,000 times, and I got 2 words for him: hatchet man. Even Vandy French said that before the three-point line was incorporated, he installed his own line for Rob. It was a 3-foot line, and he wasn't allowed to shoot beyond that mark. Football was a different animal, and as Manny Marshall wrote in a letter, with Rob's size, speed, and toughness, he was the most highly sought-after player he'd ever coached, and the greatest running back and football player as well. High praise with all the great players that Manny's coached. In 9th grade, he was co-captain of the football team. They were undefeated and unscored on. In 3 years of varsity, they only ended up with 1 loss. 2 undefeated seasons, 2 Middlesex League champions, Class B champs. Although he was condemned to play tight end his junior year, he still managed to score 4 touchdowns. Back in the backfield his senior year, and the rest is history. Tri-captain, 120 points, 19 touchdowns, selected the Middlesex League All-Star team, All-State in 3 papers, as well as being named offensively and defensively, which is quite a feat. He was Globe Player of the Year in Massachusetts and named to 2 All-American teams. After Winchester High School, he went on to UMass, where he had an outstanding freshman year. And after the freshman year, we ended up in the same huddle. It was a great thrill for me. I'll never forget the 4th down and 22-yard catch he made against Villanova to keep that drive alive. I'll also never forget the knee injury that should never have happened to someone with so much promise. So without further eloquence, it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you one of the greatest running backs to ever pull on a Winchester High football jersey, my little brother, Robbie Wolf. And if you think he was fast on the field, wait till he hits the podium.
Just to start off with, I just want to let you know Billy is the speaker in the family. So I have mine to read. I've been mulling it over for quite some time, not knowing what to say or what to write, and I finally tried to put some stuff down this morning. But when I walked in here and saw all the guys that I hadn't seen, and see some of them's 30 years, I mean, the memories came back, and I really don't know why a lot of us are still alive today over some of the stunts we pulled 30 years ago. But I do want to thank the committee and Maria and Sam, and just go through a few things. Whip touched on it earlier, but even growing up in the 70s, there wasn't much for organized sports. And we talked about it today. The toughest games we had weren't playing football. We didn't play football as kids. We played street hockey and absolutely beat the crap out of each other every day. We played a little stickball. we'd get on our bikes and we'd go to West Side Field and there'd be kids there. We'd go to McDonald Field and there'd be kids there. We'd go to Manchester again. I mean, we had the luxury to go anywhere we wanted to, and there would be kids to play, and we just had one rule. My mother said, make sure you're home in time for supper. And we were. I was very lucky to have two older brothers that weren't just very good athletically, but they were very competitive as well. And I did learn later that it was the competition that I loved. It wasn't so much the winning, but it was the competition. And Mr. Marshall pulled me aside one day my junior year when I was feeling a little sorry for myself, and had a little talk, and it stuck with me a long time. I won't share with you tonight because it's actually, I feel it's very private to me, but I referred back to that many times in my life, and it's helped me an awful lot. I didn't quite understand the whole thing until I had kids, and it really meant a lot more to me. And I don't think you know how much you mean to me. You're probably the only coach I have that I don't call coach. I call Mr. Marshall, and it's enduring. It's not for anything else but that. But for competition, I had friends that pushed me every year. Elementary school, some of them are still here. People that we fought against became friends in junior high school. And then when we moved to high school, the ones we fought in junior high became friends. And through the whole time, one thing we wanted to do was win. We thought nothing else but going out there and playing our hardest. We didn't think about losing. It was that we knew we were going to win. We didn't have to talk about it. And there's one instance, it was before a Lexington game. And for those who know Mr. Marshall, we have movie night the day before. And he's showing the movies of Lexington's team. Now, they played the exact same defense we play, exactly the same. And he's up there drawing, look how we're going to run over them. Look at the holes in their defense. There's no way they can stop us. Now we switch his hats, and it's now our turn. We're on defense, and now he's saying, look at our defense. They're not going to be able to run against us at all. We're going to shut them right down. And the thing is, we believed every word he said. And we were lucky enough, they were our toughest competition that year, and we went out there and we won the game and went on to win the title. Billy mentioned that we were undefeated unscored upon in ninth grade. Well, he was undefeated unscored upon in ninth grade. He set marks for me that we had to hit. He won a championship his senior year. I was a sophomore, and we had to strive for that. I wanted to win one my junior year, but the schedulers threw Wakefield at us early, and we didn't lose the game. The schedulers lost the game for us. They knew that Mr. Marshall's teams were always slow starters, so let's throw the toughest team against them in the beginning of the year. But we had a bunch of kids. I'll tell you, we had a 5'3" middle linebacker. We had, Bobby Carroll. Sorry, Bobby, but you could walk faster backwards than you could run forwards. And he was our safety. And Pete, he didn't have your speed, but no one got behind him either. We had Dana Peterson, who had more motion penalties because he couldn't keep his right leg from flinching while he was out there in a wideout. These are stories I hadn't thought of in quite some time, but seeing these guys again, it really brought back an awful lot of good memories. Memories I kind of ran from for a while. I've been down in Tennessee for 10 years and haven't really come back to visit my family as much as I should have, and definitely not to see some of my friends. But, in closing, I do want to thank my parents who have been there for all my 51 years, and I can't figure out how I'm 51 and Billy's still 18. But, for those who have played against them, they understand Bill still thinks he's 18. But I do want to take some time, and there's some people, my twins are here. They were gracious enough to take a few days off from school and come up, and I can attest to what county government can do. Winchester doesn't realize how lucky they are. I live in a county down in Tennessee that my town was the 8th best town to live in the United States by USA Paper. But our county is $1.7 billion in the red. I can't hire a teacher. I have to hire 3 for Memphis before I can hire 1 for the county. It's not even my town. Winchester is really lucky because education's important, athletics are important, the people in the town feel it is, and they cough the money up to make sure that it stays that way. And you don't know what you have until you don't. And this is a very special town to live in and to grow up in. But there are a few people who aren't here. My daughter Alexis is my oldest. She is up in St. Louis fighting for the elderly. And my second is Megan. She's my little Irish girl who's down attending, she is taking her finals at the University of Memphis. And she's probably like my sister-in-law, she's going to be one of the special teachers in this world, the ones that I remember. I have 5 or 6, everybody does, that they can go back and know that were very influential in their life, and Meg's going to be one. My daughter KK, who is 100% motion and emotion. She never stops for a moment, and she's just one heck of an athlete. And my son Jack, who opened my eyes to so many things in this world that I never saw before. I will never be able to thank them enough. And to my wife Sue, who I kind of drifted a while after college. As I said, when football is such a big part of your life and it's snatched away from you, I was kind of just floating around out there and probably spent too many times bending my elbow and not enough times opening the books. And until I met my wife Sue, and she has been an inspiration to me from that time on. She's shown me more courage and what it means to battle every single day, and she's an inspiration to me. And there's no saying that you can, a true measure of a man is that of his family, and if that's the truth, then I feel I really am a Hall of Famer. I just want to thank you all.
Good evening. As an active coach, I would like to say how much I appreciate what the Sports Foundation does for our sports here at Winchester High School. On July 21st, 1981, Kelly Elizabeth was born to my wife and myself. I felt so lucky to have such a beautiful new girl who I hope would become a future All-Scholastic someday. 6 years later, I met another Kelly, Elizabeth Kelly, who would not only become an All-Scholastic soccer player, but accomplish many other great soccer achievements. She was one of a kind. Liz Kelly was a youth soccer playing legend. She was a very fast, quick-cutting forward who possessed flair, tenacity, and a real attitude for scoring goals. She was unstoppable for her age level and therefore had to play at an older age bracket. She was a very confident player who set goals for herself, like making the varsity girls soccer team as a 9th grader. Liz easily accomplished that goal as a 9th grader and became the starting left wing for the varsity team. In her first varsity season, Liz scored 22 goals and had 15 assists, a record that still stands today for a 9th grader or any first-year varsity player. She also helped lead her team to a Division I Eastern Mass Finals, losing 1-0 to Newton North High School. Liz was honored as the #2 ranked player in the Middlesex League and also became the only 9th grade Eastern Mass All-Star. As a 10th grader, Liz was determined to succeed her first-year accomplishments. She was amazing. She scored 38 goals and 18 assists, creating the all-time scoring record for a single season at Winchester High School. She also helped lead her team to an undefeated Division I state championship, which also became the #1 ranked girls soccer team in the nation. Liz became the #1 ranked player in the Middlesex League and the #2 ranked player in Eastern Mass. She became a League All-Star, an All-Eastern Mass All-Star, an All-State All-Star, an All-New England All-Star, and an All-Scholastic. As a #2 ranked player in Eastern Mass, Liz should have also been awarded the All-American honor. But as the award committee weekly explained to me, quote, she was only a 10th grader and she would surely win the award her junior and senior year. Liz was determined to make that award committee's prediction a reality. She worked at her soccer game like a professional player and also wanted to lead her team to back-to-back state championships. In late spring of her 10th grade year, I received the saddest phone call of my 33-year coaching career. Liz had been seriously fouled during a spring soccer game and had torn her ACL. That injury would prevent her playing any organized soccer for 9 months. After the reconstruction surgery, Liz began her long rehab as soon as possible. She chose Sharon Lamb as her physical therapist, one of the best PT people available. According to Sharon, no one that she had ever worked with worked harder than Liz Kelly to recuperate. The fall of Liz's junior year was a very tough one for Liz. She became our team's manager and enthusiastically came to every practice and game to help in any way she could. She once wrote me, though, that she cried herself to sleep every night of that season. Her mates won 20 straight games that year, but lost in a shootout in the Division I North Sectional Finals to Framingham. There would be no back-to-back state championships. Later that spring of Liz's junior year, she was finally given the green light to start training for soccer. I gave Liz a bag of 10 old and scarred balls. Every day that spring and throughout the summer, Liz dragged that bag of balls to some town field and kicked the stuffing out of those balls for 2 straight hours. She had set herself some very high goals, and she was driven to accomplish them. Liz was also fitted with a giant leg-long brace that she would have to wear in any type of competition. It was ugly and cumbersome, but Liz was just happy to be able to play again and was ready to endure any challenge. In Liz's senior year, she ravaged the Middlesex League again by scoring 27 goals and 15 assists. Her team won the Middlesex League title and was the #1 ranked seed going into the sectional tournament. Unfortunately for the team, they lost in another shootout to North Andover. It was a cruel way for Liz to end her high school career after such a special comeback. Liz was awarded the #1 ranking as a player for the league. She also became the #1 ranked player in Eastern Mass. She became a league all-star, an all-Eastern Mass all-star, an all-state all-star, an all-New England all-star, an all-star, and an all-American. She was also the Globe Scholastic Player of the Year. Liz's career scoring record was 87 goals and 48 assists, the best 3-year record in Winchester School's history. In the 69 games that Liz played in, the team won a record 61 games, 2 losses, and 6 ties. Liz went on to the University of Virginia and reunited with her old high school mate, Jenny Gilpatrick. They were known throughout the ACC Conference as the very successful Winchester Connection. Liz played 4 years at Virginia and was awarded many honors. 2 years ago, I received a late-night phone call from our former AD, Rob Wargo. After apologizing for the lateness of his call, he asked me a very surprising question. He wanted to know who my best attacking player was in my varsity coaching career. Without hesitating, I replied, Liz Kelly. She was also my second favorite Kelly. I'd like to now have the honor of recommending Liz Kelly for a Hall of Fame, for the Winchester High School Hall of Fame. Thank you.
I'd first like to thank the Hall of Fame Committee, especially Maria Montori and Sam Rotundi, for your nomination and now induction into the Winchester High School Hall of Fame. I'm so grateful for this honor. You have been so kind and enthusiastic about my induction over the past several months and have made it a really special thing. Thank you. You both exemplify the concept of giving back to where you came from, and your dedication to raising funds for the maintenance of athletic programs at Winchester High School is very honorable. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank my family and friends who are here tonight. I like to say that my mom was my first fan, suffering through those early fall soccer years, watching the swarm of bees scramble around the ball up and down the field. From those days all the way to the University of Virginia games, she was there. I'd say that my father was my more concentrated fan, and I say that because he seemed to jump on board when he started hearing that I was pretty good from neighbors and coaches. So we had to really cram in some good fan time through high school and college. He made up for it, though, so well that I literally have 10 to 15 copies of each paper clipping, picture, or article that I was ever in, neatly cut, highlighted, laminated, and filed by season. Which actually came in very handy for when Maria asked me for some newspaper clippings for tonight, but I have to say that it was a little bit of a disappointment when I went to my parents and saw this thick stack of clippings to realize it was the same 5 articles photocopied 30 times each. I'd like to thank my friends who are here tonight. Coincidentally, some of my first teammates are some of my first friends, and they're still my closest friends today. So thank you for being here, guys. I'd also like to thank my coaches, Jim Noonan, who sat with us tonight, father of Sarah Noonan, an all-scholastic player who went on to become one of the all-time greatest players at Harvard. Jim was so instrumental in the success of Winchester girls soccer. He was committed to getting us into the best youth soccer leagues and tournaments so that we're always playing at the highest level of competition. At a time when joining the up-and-coming club teams was becoming so popular, Jim focused on keeping the Winchester girls playing together throughout the year. As a result, we were able to beat every all-star club team in the state with a team made up of all girls from Winchester. And best of all, Jim was able to pass on to Chris Scanlon a team that had played together for over 6 years. Last but certainly not least, and certainly after that speech that he just gave, I'd like to thank Chris Scanlon. Through all my years of playing, I can say that Chris Scanlon was my best coach. He was committed to investing as much time into developing me as a player as I was willing to put in. And he not only matched my dedication to being the best player that I could be, but most importantly, he helped me envision where I could get to next. Interestingly, the lessons that I didn't even realize I was learning from him on the soccer field at the time has stayed with me ever since. Lessons about commitment, teamwork, respect, attitude. At the time, I thought I was simply learning the best shooting technique, but it was all these underlying lessons that I was really absorbing. And for that, I'm most thankful. The farther away that I got from his coaching, the more I realized how skilled he was, and I will always be grateful for the time he dedicated to helping me succeed. When Maria asked me for some newspaper clippings and pictures for tonight's slideshow, I went to my parents, like I said, and started sorting through the materials. And it really took me back to that place in time. One of the best things about being honored here tonight was the opportunity it's given me to really reflect on those years. And now that some years have passed, and I have gained some perspective by experiencing other teams or jobs and different relationships with friends or coworkers, it's clear to me what made those high school athletic years so special. This was a moment in time where I had a passion for what I was doing. I was self-motivated and laser-focused on specific goals that I wanted to achieve. The people around me, my teammates, happened to be my best friends, and we all had the same overall objective to be the best team. And then there was our coach, Chris Scanlon, who was willing to do whatever it took to help us find our greatest success. This is an amazing combination and the kind of perfect storm that can make a team go 24-0 and become ranked #1 in the country like we did in 1990. So it hit me. I know I'm still young, but it just doesn't seem to happen that often in life when you have all these factors come together in one moment in time. It doesn't happen every day that your work or sport happens to be your passion, and your manager or coach or boss is willing to put in 100% to help you be the best that you can be. And it's not often that your coworkers or teammates are your best friends and have the same objective for team success. I remember back in high school at a few of those pregame dinners with Coach Scanlon and maybe even Maria Montori. I think she said, "Don't leave anything on the field, because if you give it all that you have, no one will be able to take that away from you." That phrase, "no one will be able to take it away from you." I wish this meant more to me at the time, but I think I needed time and perspective to truly understand it. You never know. After reflecting back on those years and being honored here tonight, I think I get it. You never know when your next chance to achieve greatness is. So when you have the chance, you have to give it all you can, because if you do, it's something that you'll be able to keep forever. So thank you again to the Winchester Sports Foundation and to the Hall of Fame Committee. High school athletics had a huge impact on my life, and I recognize the importance of making sure today's student athletes have the same opportunities that I did. I feel blessed to have experienced such a wonderful and rewarding high school sports career, and I'm so glad I was given this honor here tonight so that I could reflect on that special time. Thank you very much.
Just a few thank yous from myself for this evening. Joan Bird, thank you so much for your organizational skills. Joan's had a rough few weeks. We miss Bill not being here, but we know he's on the mend, and that's great. Dot Butler, thank you so much for your constant calling and helping. Karen Branley, thank you, because I know the seniors wouldn't be here without you. The night is going to be very different tonight because we did the presentations pre-recorded, which means we're going to be spending a lot of the time looking at these screens. As the person is inducted, they're going to have the presenter already filmed. And that was kind of a tough job for some of these people because it's tough to speak in front of a camera and not be able to be edited. So they did a great job. So I hope you enjoy this type of presentation that we're going to be showing you tonight. Ben Gans is a junior at the high school. Junior is sophomore. And he took the reins to do the senior video tonight. So I wanted to thank him because he really took a lot off our shoulders in trying to get that done. However, we have, as I said, we're doing everything on video tonight, and it would never have been possible without the help and instruction and expertise of WinCam. Don Cronin, thank you so much. Adam Dusenberry, unbelievable work. They are a gem in the town of Winchester, and whenever it's time you can support them, we would all appreciate it because they are excellent. Thank you. Alta Video, Cindy, my film soulmate, thank you for helping me edit. Jamie, thank you for being here from Alta. Jamie's going to be showing it tonight.